you very much for joining today. We have people from all over the world, so no matter what your time zone is, thanks for making time to join us for this Ignite webcast. My name is Josh Topal, and I'm a program manager for Office 365. And let me explain what Ignite events are. So Ignite events are a series of technical workshops for IT professionals and Microsoft partners. And the Ignite webcast series will address different technical subjects and scenarios that are beneficial to anyone who wants to increase their knowledge of the Office 365 suite. So today we're really happy to have Scott Schnoll lead us as we discuss what's new in Exchange 2013. So Scott is a principal technical writer on the Microsoft Exchange user education team. And today's session provides a great opportunity to hear from a Microsoft employee about Office and Office 365 and learn more about what's coming for the product. So today's webcast will be about an hour, maybe a little less, and we'll leave 10 to 15 minutes at the end to field any questions that we might have from the audience today. So we are recording today's session, and we'll have the slideshow available and the original recording on the blog post. I'm going to go ahead and post the URLs for where the blog post and the YouTube channels are, where you can find the video recording later and all the materials that are used today. You can also go ahead and download the PowerPoint presentation from Lync itself. If you see the paperclip icon towards the top of your Lync application, you can go ahead and download that. But I would recommend waiting to the end to download that the presentation. So one last thing, if you want to ask questions during the presentation, go ahead and type them into the chat box below. We'll most likely have time to answer those towards the end during the 10 and 15 question and answers session of the part. So without further ado, Scott, are you ready?
All set.
All right, great.
Great. Thanks very much, Josh. And hello, everyone, and welcome to What's New in Exchange 2013. I'm Scott Schnoll, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm a principal technical writer on the Exchange team, and I write the product documentation for Exchange Server areas such as high availability, site resilience, and others. I'm really glad you could join me today as I discuss some of the architectural changes and some of the great new features in Exchange Server 2013. Now, as some of you may know, Exchange 2013 was released to manufacturing back on October 11th, 10/11/12, for those of you keeping track. That was 3 years and 4 days after Exchange Server 2010 reached RTM. With well over 3 years of development, a lot has changed with Exchange 2013. And of course, some of you might also know that already, since the RTM version of Exchange 2013 has been downloadable for a couple of months now, and Exchange 2013 reached general availability last month on December 3rd. Now, as with previous versions, Exchange 2013 is designed to handle current and future communication challenges and to take advantage of current and emerging hardware trends. Today, for example, there's a ton of devices connecting to a variety of services. 10 years ago, connected workers had a PC, maybe a bulky laptop, and maybe even a simple mobile phone. And many were still using dial-up internet. But today we have smartphones, IP phones, slates, tablets, laptops, desktops, and netbooks, and people want access to email and business information from anywhere on any device. Now, the information explosion that's underway continues exponentially. And in the next decade, mankind's data will increase by 44 times, while the number of IT professionals will only grow by 1.4 times. And in fact, in the next year alone, there will be more data generated than in all of mankind's history. According to IDC, as of May 2010, humans have 1.2 zettabytes, or 1.2 billion terabytes, or 1.2 million petabytes of information. And the rate at which we create information continues to accelerate. They estimate that by 2020, the amount of data will have grown 44-fold to 35 trillion gigabytes. And workers need smart ways to deal with information so they can find what they need in this flood of data. And businesses need ways to protect that information. Some of the information is intellectual property, some is business-critical data, and some of it is personally identifiable information. Managing this is a challenge and a complex task. In fact, just about every year since 1995 has been deemed by some analyst or press figure to be the year of compliance. The reality is that many organizations put it off or do only the minimum required by law or industry regulation. but organizations have to figure out how to take this incredible quantity of information moving at unprecedented velocity to more places and people than ever before, and keep it safe and secure. And as businesses deal with new ways to keep information safe and secure, they'll also be dealing with a multi-generational workforce and an influx of Generation Y workers. Last year, there was one baby boomer for every working age person in the developed world. And in fact, in the next U.S. presidential election in the year 2016, the voting majority will be Generation Y. So organizations that want to recruit the best and the brightest of this generation need to provide technology that helps them reach their goals, just as they're accustomed to from their consumer experiences. And at the same time, the workforce is diverse. You need to have technology that enables people to get work done no matter what their comfort level is. So let's talk about the new architecture in Exchange 2013 and some of the new features that help address these challenges. And let's start with the new architecture itself. Our primary design goal for Exchange 2013 was to create a design that enabled us to use building blocks to provide a scalable solution to facilitate deployments of all sizes, from self-hosted small organizations to the largest organization on the planet, Office 365. We wanted to achieve a solution that enabled hardware efficiency, deployment simplicity, and failure isolation. And in addition, we wanted to simplify and reduce the cost of the network layer as well. Now, the resulting architecture I'm about to discuss meets these goals and provides an evolution to the server roles, improvements on the network layer, and provides failure isolation and hardware efficiency. Now, the primary architectural changes I want to discuss today include this evolution of the server roles, as well as new technology called the Managed Store, and the new transport architecture in Exchange 2013, more new technology called Managed Availability, and new search technology called Search Foundation. There's also unified messaging and voice architectural changes, which I'll discuss in the features portion of this presentation. So let's start with the evolution of the server roles in Exchange. Server roles were first introduced in Exchange 2007. Prior to the introduction of server roles, Exchange was a monolithic application. For example, in Exchange 2003, the administrator ran setup, installed Exchange, and only after manual configuration did the installed Exchange server become configured with a messaging role in the organization, such as a front-end server, a back-end server, a bridgehead server, etc. And as with all software, our design and internal architecture will be built based on available technology. At the time we were designing Exchange 2007, a big constraint for us was CPU performance. Obviously, back then, multi-core processors didn't exist, and so we were largely CPU-bound when multiple workloads were run on the same server. To achieve scalability given this constraint, these workloads were broken up into multiple logical units of function that we called server roles. So as you can see, and as most of you probably know, there are 5 server roles. Inside the corporate network are the client access, hub transport, unified messaging, and mailbox server roles. And outside the corporate network, in a perimeter network, we have the edge transport server role. In Exchange 2007, these roles were run on separate servers. In Exchange 2010, many of the constraints around CPU performance were gone with the advent of faster processors and multi-core processors, and so multi-role became the preferred configuration for the server roles, that is, running CAS, hub transport, and mailbox on the same server. So with the CPU constraints gone, our primary design goals for Exchange 2013 became simplicity of scale, hardware optimization and efficiency, and failure isolation. The new design takes the components previously found in the unified messaging and in the hub transport and in the client access server roles and moves that functionality into the Exchange 2013 mailbox server role. And a new client access server was developed to act as the connection targets for clients and to proxy or redirect those connection requests to the appropriate destination. And so in Exchange 2013, we have just 2 server roles, client access and mailbox. As there is no edge transport server role in Exchange 2013 RTM, outside the corporate network, you can still use an Exchange 2010 edge transport server or Exchange 2007 if you're running that version, and that version of edge can receive and submit messages to the transport components on an Exchange 2013 mailbox server. Now, in Exchange 2013, the client access server role is basically a thin, stateless, exchange-aware proxy server that contains three components. It has the client access protocol stack, so for instance, the stack that serves HTTP, POP, and IMAP. It has an SMTP proxy component, and it has a call router component. Now, being an exchange-aware proxy server means that the client access server understands the requests from each client, and it contains logic to route specific protocol requests to the proper destination endpoint. It supports proxying and redirection for client protocols, as well as for legacy Exchange servers. In fact, in a coexistence scenario with Exchange 2010, for example, a single namespace that points to Exchange 2013 can be used for both Exchange 2013 and Exchange 2010 mailboxes. The Mailbox Server, as before, is the core server role in Exchange 2013. It contains all of the components that process, render, and store Exchange data, including mailbox data, public folder data, transport data, and so forth. And as I mentioned earlier, it contains all of the services and components that were found previously in the separate client access, hub transport, and unified messaging server roles. But unlike the server roles in previous versions of Exchange, which were tightly coupled in terms of functionality, versioning, and other aspects, the client access server role and the mailbox server role in Exchange 2013 are loosely coupled in terms of functionality, versioning, and these other aspects. This is because client access and mailbox have been decoupled from one another in terms of dependencies. This decoupling has many benefits. It means, for example, the rigid upgrade requirements from previous versions are gone. With Exchange 2013, a client access server can be upgraded independently and in any order relative to the mailbox role. It also means that recovery of client access and mailbox servers, particularly those mailbox servers in a database availability group, are no longer tied together as well. Now, one key principle of this new architecture is that access to a user's mailbox is always provided by the protocol stack on the mailbox server that hosts the active copy of their mailbox database. Now, this has many benefits. In Exchange 2010, for example, session affinity to the client access server role was required for several protocols. In Exchange 2013, the client access and mailbox components reside on the same mailbox server. Because the new client access server role proxies all connections for a user to a specific mailbox server, session affinity is not required on the client access servers. And of course, you can take these two new server roles and group them together for high availability purposes. You can add multiple mailbox servers to a database availability group, and you can add multiple client access servers. I think somebody just changed my slide there. And you can add multiple client access servers to a client access server array. Now, the DAG is very similar to what we have in Exchange 2010. It's a collection of mailbox servers that form a unit of high availability. And as with Exchange 2010, the DAG is the boundary for replication and for switchovers and failovers. And of course, DAG members can be in different sites for site resilience. And like Exchange 2010, each DAG can have a maximum of 16 mailbox servers. Now, this might be a surprise to some of you since Exchange 2013 is supported on Windows Server 2012, and Windows Server 2012 failover clustering supports much larger clusters. We intentionally decided to keep DAGs limited to 16 members in Exchange 2013. That's a fair number of servers to manage in a single group. If you have a business case where you think you need a DAG with more than 16 members, please feel free to email the information to me, and I'll get it in front of the HA team for consideration. Now, the CAS array in 2013 is different from the CAS array in Exchange 2010. In Exchange 2010, it was an RPC client access server array, which was a load-balanced endpoint for internal domain-joined Outlook clients that were connecting via RPC over TCP. In Exchange 2013, RPC over TCP connectivity is not allowed for Outlook clients. Only RPC over HTTP, or what we call Outlook Anywhere, is allowed. Thus, there's no RPC client access server array in Exchange 2013, and the namespace that went with that array is also gone. Instead, in Exchange 2013, we have what we simply call the client access server array, or CAS array for short. The CAS array is a group of CAS organized in a load-balanced configuration. Layer 7 load balancing is still supported, but since the clients no longer need session affinity at the CAS layer, again because the session for access to a user's mailbox exists only on the mailbox server hosting the active copy, Layer 7 load balancing, aka application level session affinity, isn't required anymore. Layer 4 load balancing can now be used as well. So in Exchange 2013, the CAS array is there to provide unified namespace and authentication. And this is similar to Exchange 2010's in terms of providing a unified endpoint for client connectivity and authentication, but it's much less complex than Exchange 2010 from an administration perspective. Okay, I'm just going to have a brief look and see if there's any questions that are building up here. Yes, you're asking about ETA for coexistence updates. I will talk about that, or actually it looks like somebody's already answered it by posting the link to the blog where we talk about it. Great. Okay, so moving on now, let's talk about the managed store. So the managed store is the name for the newly rewritten Microsoft Exchange Information Store. It's written in managed code, C#, hence the name managed store. And it leverages the controller worker process model, thereby providing storage process isolation and faster failover. And it includes a new database caching algorithm as well. Now, from the very beginning of Exchange Server, even before Exchange 4.0 was released, up until Exchange 2010, we had roughly the same information store process, store.exe. And of course, it evolved throughout the years as Exchange evolved, with code being added, code being removed, code being changed many times by many people over many years. And of course, as a single process, its scalability is limited and it represents a single point of failure. So it was really time to move on to a model that provided greater scalability and failure isolation. And the managed store provides us with that process isolation. For example, if needed, the administrator or the system has the ability to terminate an individual worker process affecting only a single database without a negative effect on other databases. Now, in the multi-process model for the managed store, there's a single controller process, in this case, Microsoft.exchange.store.service.exe, and one worker process for each mounted database, in this case, Microsoft.exchange.store.worker.exe. When a database is mounted, a new worker process is instantiated that services only that database. When a database is dismounted, the worker process for that database is terminated. So, for example, if you have 40 databases mounted on a server, there will be 41 processes running for the managed store, one for each database and one for the store service process controller. Now, the store process controller is very thin and very reliable, but if it does die or if it's terminated, then all worker processes die. They'll detect the server process is gone and they will exit. The store process controller monitors the health of all store worker processes on the server. And any forcible or unexpected termination of the store service will cause an immediate failover of all active database copies. The database caching algorithm we used in previous versions of Exchange is also gone. We now use a very simple and straightforward algorithm for determining database cache. It literally saved us hundreds of thousands of lines in code over the previous algorithm. This also means that it's no longer necessary for the system to dynamically reallocate cache between databases when failover occurs, which also greatly simplifies cache management. Now, the new algorithm allocates memory for the ESE cache for store worker processes based on the amount of physical RAM in the system. About 25% of the total memory in the system is allocated to the ESE cache. And there's a static amount of cache that's allocated to each passive and active copies. The amount of that cache that is allocated to each database is also based on the number of local database copies and the value of the maximum active databases parameter if that's configured. And with this new caching algorithm, if you add or remove databases or database copies, simply restart the controller service to recalculate the cache. Now let's talk about the transport aspects of the new architecture next. As you might imagine, given the scope of architectural changes in Exchange 2013, there's a different transport architecture as well. Now, this new architecture has all messages coming into the organization via the client access server and provides you with the option of routing all outbound messages through CAS as well. In Exchange 2013, the transport pipeline is comprised of multiple services across both server roles. In addition, mail routing has been improved to queue messages more directly for internal recipients and to use DAGs as a delivery group in the same way AD sites are used as delivery groups in previous versions. The new transport architecture uses multiple services on both server roles. First, there's the front-end transport service. This service runs on all client access servers and acts as a stateless proxy for all inbound and outbound external SMTP traffic for the organization. The front-end transport service does not inspect message content, doesn't do any filtering, doesn't queue any messages locally, and only communicates with the transport service on a mailbox server. On the mailbox server, we have the other services. We have the transport service, which is virtually identical to the hub transport server role in previous versions of Exchange. The transport service handles all SMTP mail flow for the organization. It performs message categorization, it performs message content inspection, and so forth. But unlike previous versions of Exchange, it doesn't communicate directly with the mailbox databases. That task is now handled by the mailbox transport service, which I'll describe in a moment. But the transport service routes messages between the mailbox transport service and the front-end transport service. And then finally, there is the mailbox transport service, and this service runs on all mailbox servers and consists of two separate services, the mailbox transport submission service and the mailbox transport delivery service. Now, the mailbox transport delivery service receives SMTP messages from the transport service on the local mailbox server or on other mailbox servers, and it connects to the local mailbox database using Exchange RPC to deliver the message. The mailbox transport submission service connects to the local mailbox database using RPC to retrieve messages, and it submits the messages over SMTP to the transport service on the local mailbox server or again on other mailbox servers. The mailbox transport submission service has access to the same routing topology as the transport service. And like the front-end transport service, the mailbox transport service also does not queue any messages locally. So this figure shows the relationships among the components in the Exchange 2013 transport pipeline. Messages from outside the organization enter the transport pipeline through a receive connector in the front-end transport service on a client access server, and then they're routed to the transport service on a mailbox server. Messages inside the transport service on a mailbox server will enter one of the following ways. They might come in through a receive connector, they might come in through the mailbox transport service or through agent submission, or they may be submitted from the pickup or replay directories. Now, I mentioned enhanced routing earlier. When a message is received by the transport service on an Exchange 2013 mailbox server, the message must be categorized. The first phase of categorization is recipient resolution. After the recipient has been resolved, the ultimate destination can be determined. And then the next phase, routing, determines how to best reach that destination. Now, routing in Exchange 2013 has been generalized for increased flexibility and decreased complexity by introducing the concepts of routing destinations and delivery groups. And actually, delivery groups are not new in Exchange 2013. We used them in previous versions. We just didn't call them delivery groups. Now, in Exchange 2013, the ultimate destination for a message is called a routing destination. And as with previous versions, there are three routing destinations. It can be a mailbox database, which is the routing destination for any recipient with a mailbox on a mailbox server. And in Exchange 2013, public folders are a type of mailbox, so routing messages to public folders also applies there as well. It can also be a connector, which is a send connector for SMTP messages when used as a routing destination. Now, a delivery agent connector or a foreign connector is used as a routing destination for non-SMTP messages. And the last kind would be the distribution group expansion server, which is a routing destination when a DG has been designated and an expansion server has been chosen to expand that list. And a distribution group expansion server is always the hub transport service or the transport service or an Exchange 2013 mailbox server. Now, each routing destination in Exchange 2013 has a collection of one or more transport servers that are responsible for delivering messages to that destination. Now, this collection of transport servers is called a delivery group. A transport server could be an Exchange 2013 mailbox server or even an Exchange 2010 server that has the hub transport server role installed. Now, when the routing destination is a mailbox database, The transport servers and the delivery group are the same version of Exchange as the mailbox database. When the routing destination is a connector or distribution group expansion server, then this delivery group may contain a mixture of Exchange 2013 mailbox servers and legacy Exchange 2010 hub transport servers. Now, there are 5 delivery groups in Exchange 2013. One is a new one called the Routable DAG. That's a collection of Exchange 2013 mailbox servers that are members of the same DAG. The mailbox databases in the DAG are the routing destinations that are serviced by this delivery group. After the message arrives at the transport service on a mailbox server that belongs to the DAG, the transport service routes the messages to the mailbox transport service on the mailbox server in the DAG that currently holds the active copy of the mailbox database. Another delivery group is the Mailbox Delivery Group. That's a collection of Exchange servers of the same version located in a single AD site. Now, the AD site is the delivery group boundary. The routing destinations and the delivery groups that service them are separated by the major releases of Exchange in that site. So the mailbox databases located on Exchange 2010 mailbox servers are serviced by the Exchange 2010 hub transport servers. And the mailbox databases located on Exchange 2013 mailbox servers that don't belong to a DAG are serviced by the transport service on Exchange 2013 non-DAG mailbox servers in that site. Another one is the connector source servers. This is a mixed collection of Exchange 2010 hub transport and or Exchange 2013 mailbox servers that are scoped as a source server for a SEM connector. Another one is Active Directory sites, and those are used when the AD site is configured as a hub site. And so when the hub site exists on the least cost routing path for message delivery, the messages queue and are processed by a transport server in the hub site before they're relayed to their ultimate destination. And the last one is the server list. And this is a collection of one or more Exchange 2010 hub transport servers or Exchange 2013 mailbox servers that are configured as distribution group expansion servers. And then the expansion server ends up being the routing destination serviced by this delivery group, by the service list delivery group. All right, let's talk about managed availability next. So managed availability is brand new technology inside Exchange 2013. It's the integration of built-in active monitoring and the Exchange 2013 high availability platform. It's a set of internal components that run on both server roles, and it's designed to detect and recover from problems as soon as they occur or are discovered by the system. So with managed availability, for example, the system can make a determination as to when to fail over a database or take a server offline based on service health. Now, historically, monitoring Exchange has relied on external applications such as the System Center Operations Manager, which uses rules to collect data and to perform actions based on that collected data. But after 6 years of operating a very large cloud-based version of Exchange, the Exchange engineering team has learned quite a few things. Because it is the engineering team that operates services such as Exchange Online and Office 365. When a service-related issue occurs, it's the engineers that are on call to deal with it. And the knowledge they gain from operating these services and responding to these issues are put back into the product so that they can benefit on-premises customers as well. So managed availability is all about putting the lessons learned into native built-in monitoring inside Exchange 2013. With managed availability, internal monitoring and recovery-oriented features are tightly integrated to help prevent failures and to proactively restore services and initiate server failovers automatically or alert administrators to take action. The focus is on monitoring and managing the end-user experience rather than just the server and component uptime to help keep the service continuously available. The managed availability is user-focused. It doesn't communicate root cause or identify root cause for an outage. It's a user-focused solution that examines 3 key criteria. The availability, am I able to access the service? Latency, if I can't access the service, what's the experience like? Is it snappy or slow? And errors, am I accomplishing my task, or when I do certain actions, do I encounter any errors? The goal is to measure the perception of the service, and if there are issues, managed availability can take predictive, corrective action to try to resolve the problem. For example, the system can make a determination on when to fail over a database based on service health. And if it can't fix the problem, it can escalate the issue to an administrator through event log notification. Because managed availability detects and recovers from problems automatically, as they occur or as they're discovered, applications like System Center Operations Manager become alerting portals rather than monitoring and recovery centers for Exchange 2013. Now, like Managed Store, Managed Availability also use the controller worker process model. These processes run on every Exchange 2013 server. You have the Exchange Health Manager service. This is a controller process that's used to manage the worker process. It's also used to build, execute, and start and stop the worker process as needed. And it's also used to recover the worker process in case it has an issue, it crashes, or to prevent the process from being a single point of failure. And then you have the worker process, and those are responsible for performing the runtime tasks. Now, Managed Availability includes three main asynchronous components that are constantly doing work. The first component is the probe engine, which is responsible for taking measurements on the server and collecting data. The probe engine contains probes and checks as well as a notification component. Now, probes are typically synthetic end-to-end client transactions, and checks are typically implemented as performance counters where thresholds are set to detect spikes in client failures. The key goal of these checks is to measure the actual client traffic and to become aware when the client traffic is exceeding a certain threshold and users are experiencing issues. So the notification component is there to act on exceptions or conditions that can be detected without this large sample set. The key goal for this component is to take action immediately based on some critical event. Now, the results of the measurements from the probes flow into the second component, the monitor. Monitors contain all of the business logic used by the system based on what is considered healthy based on the data collected. Now, it's similar to a pattern recognition engine where the monitor looks for the various different patterns on the collected measurements, and then based on those patterns, it decides whether something is considered healthy. And then finally, there's the responder engine. When something is unhealthy, the first action is to attempt to recover that component. That can include multi-stage recovery actions. For example, the first attempt might be to restart the application pool. The second might be to restart the service. The third might be to restart the server, etc., and so forth. And if the recovery actions are unsuccessful, the system escalates the issue to a human through event log notification. Now let me introduce you to Search Foundation next. In Exchange 2000 and 2003, Microsoft Search version 2.0 was used. And in 2007, we used Microsoft Search 3.0. And then finally, Exchange 2007 SP3 and Exchange 2010 are both updated to use Microsoft Search 3.1. Now, back in 2008, Microsoft purchased a company out of Norway called Fast that had a search engine product also called Fast. And after purchasing Fast, which is now a wholly owned subsidiary of Microsoft, the Office Group became the owners of the Fast technology. Fast search technology is now used across Office and by both Exchange and SharePoint, and is now known by its new name, Microsoft Search Foundation. The Microsoft Search Foundation is a rich search platform that comes with significantly improved indexing and querying performance and improved search functionality. And because Search Foundation is also used by other Office products, including SharePoint 2013, it offers greater interoperability and similar query syntax across the products. Now, with a single content indexing engine, no additional resources are needed to crawl and index mailbox databases when you're doing things like in-place e-discovery. Exchange 2013 allows SharePoint 2013 to search Exchange mailbox content using a federated search API. SharePoint 2013 provides an e-discovery center to allow authorized personnel to perform e-discovery functions. Microsoft Search Foundation provides a common indexing and search infrastructure to both Exchange and SharePoint 2013 and allows you to use the same query syntax across both applications. This ensures that an e-discovery search performed in SharePoint 2013 will return the same Exchange 2013 content as the same search performed using in-place e-discovery in Exchange 2013. And SharePoint 2013 e-discovery center also allows you to export the content returned in a search, including export of 2013 content to a PST file. Now, in-place eDiscovery uses Keyword Query Language, KQL. This is a querying syntax very similar to the advanced query syntax used by Instant Search in Outlook and Outlook Web App. So users familiar with AQS and KQL can very quickly and easily construct powerful search queries to search their content indexes. Now, in previous versions of Exchange, separate Office filter packs needed to be installed on the Exchange servers for content indexing to be able to index Office attachments. Because Search Foundation supports these file types natively, as well as text files and PDF files, you no longer need to separately download and install the Office filter packs. As a side note, there is some Exchange documentation that does state they're needed, but we're revising that content and we'll be updating it shortly. Now, Search Foundation can leverage iFilters, so if there are additional third-party file formats that you need to index, and there is an available iFilter for those, you can import that into Search Foundation and make those files searchable as well. And finally, Search Foundation also includes very robust error handling. Indexing errors are written automatically to a retry table so that failed tasks can be retried by the system. And permanent errors are written to a failed items table, which can be examined by an administrator for failed documents by using the get failed content index documents commandlet. Now that we've looked at the architectural changes and additions in Exchange 2013, let's have a look at some of the new features in Exchange 2013 as well. The features I want to talk about today include the Exchange Administration Center, data loss prevention, and how Exchange 2013 integrates with SharePoint and Lync, modern public folders, and unified messaging. Let's start with the Exchange Administration Center. Now, in Exchange 2003, we had one management interface, Exchange System Manager. It was graphical only, and there were no command line management tools at the time. In Exchange 2007, we moved away from Exchange System Manager to a model that used a Microsoft Management Console snap-in. This new GUI, called the Exchange Management Console, became a replacement for Exchange System Manager. But at that time, we also started the journey of architecting Exchange as a solution for both on-premises deployments and cloud-based deployments. And while graphical interfaces are easy to use and provide a quick and simple way to achieve a single task, they aren't always so good at bulk operations, managing at scale, or automation or workflows, all things necessary for operating cloud-based environments. So we introduced a new command line interface called the Exchange Management Shell, which was based on Windows PowerShell. In moving further toward the cloud, we introduced the Exchange Control Panel, a web-based management console for administrators and operators to manage on-premises and cloud-based deployments, and for end users to perform a variety of self-service management tasks. With Exchange 2013, we are further streamlining our management tools so that they are just as powerful in both on-premises and cloud-based and hybrid deployments. We've dropped the MMC console and rewritten all of ECP, and we've basically replaced both the Exchange Management Console and ECP with a new single management interface called the Exchange Administration Center, or simply EAC for short. As EAC is web-based, it's well-suited for on-premises, hybrid, and cloud-only deployments, and it can be used to perform management tasks internally or externally, and of course, external access can be restricted or turned off if desired. So here's an annotated screenshot showing you the pieces of the Exchange Administration Center. On the left-hand side is the feature pane, which is the primary navigation area that takes you to the various features that you can configure. When you select an option from the feature pane, the tabs at the top change to reflect the features appropriate to the selected pane. When you select one of the tabs, the list view changes to display data and objects related to the selected tab. And once something is selected in the list view, additional information about the selected object is displayed in the details pane. One other new area is the new notifications area where alerts are displayed for an administrator. For example, we've done a lot of work around making certificate management easier in Exchange 2013. One of the things that we've done is to add alerts for EAC so that an administrator can be notified when a certificate is about to expire. When a certificate is about to expire, an alert is displayed for the administrator in the Exchange Administration Console. And if it's within 30 days or less, an alert will appear every day until the certificate is renewed. The last two areas to point out are the cross-premises navigational elements that enable you to seamlessly switch between managing on-premises deployment and an Office 365 deployment without switching tools. and the Me Tile and Help area, which enables administrators to switch between managing themselves and the organization without switching tools, and of course to get context-sensitive help when needed as well. Now, although I'm showing EAC and Internet Explorer, we've also worked very hard to achieve cross-platform support. EAC is also supported with Chrome 18 and later on Windows and Mac platforms, Safari 5.1 and later on OS X, Firefox and later on Windows, and Windows OS X and Linux platforms, and of course Internet Explorer on Windows. Now let's talk about data loss prevention. Today, it's important to help users do the right thing in a complex world of compliance. Data loss prevention, or what we call DLP, is a new feature that helps you protect sensitive data and inform users of internal compliance policies. DLP can also help prevent users from mistakenly sending sensitive information to unauthorized people. DLP is there to help you identify, monitor, and protect sensitive data through deep content analysis. Exchange 2013 offers built-in DLP policies based on regulatory standards such as personally identifiable information and payment card industry data security standards. And it's extensible to support other policies that are important in your business. And additionally, the new customizable DLP policy tips are there to inform Outlook 2013 users about policy violations before the sensitive data is sent. Now, DLP policies are simple packages that contain sets of conditions, which are made up of transport rules, actions, and exceptions. This way, Exchange gives you the control to manage compliance in order to meet your business and regulatory needs. The goal is to help you prevent accidental data loss via email by detecting sensitive data before it's sent, using built-in templates that filter mail content for things like PCI DSS, GLBA, and other important regulations. And you can also import DLP policy templates from top security partners or build your own. Now, DLP is built upon transport rules. While it was possible to do some of these things in Exchange 2010 or Exchange Online in previous versions, now DLP is all packaged, and it includes reporting, charts, and classifications, and it's all ready to go for you out of the box. And you can get comfortable getting started with DLP in Exchange because we've included all the management tools you need in the Exchange Administration Center. You can do things like start with a pre-configured policy template that can help you detect specific types of sensitive information, or even locale-specific personally identifiable information. You can use the full power of existing transport rule predicates and actions and add new transport rules. You can test the effectiveness of the policies before enforcing them. You can incorporate your own custom policy templates and sensitive information types. You can detect sensitive information in the message attachments, in the body text or subject lines, and you can adjust the confidence level at which Exchange takes action. You can create and customize policy tips, which can help reduce data loss by displaying a notice to Outlook users. And you can also help improve the effectiveness of the policies by allowing these Outlook users to do false positive reporting. And you can also review incident data in message tracking logs or add reporting by using a new generate incident report action. So let me show you some of these screenshot examples for DLP. This is what the interface looks like when you're managing DLP inside the Exchange Administration Center. And as you can see, there's a lot of different predefined policies that are in there, showing right now things like ABA routing numbers for banks, or Canadian driver's license and social security numbers, or credit card numbers, or other driver's licenses from Japan or Germany and France and other places and so forth. And this is what the DLP policy tip looks like when it's being viewed inside of Outlook 2013. In this case, we're sending a message that looks like it includes a credit card information in there, and the policy tip is showing them that it does contain sensitive content and that you might want to think twice before you send this out. And then from a reporting perspective, this is just one of the many reports that you can look at when you want to see how effective your DLP policy rules are. Here we're just looking at the effectiveness of 3 policies, one for HIPAA, one for PCI DSS, and one for GLBA. You can see there were, in the case of HIPAA and PCI DSS, hundreds of detections with some overrides and some false positives as well. Now, one of the goals for Exchange 2013, and indeed all of the Office 2013 products, including SharePoint and Lync, was to have tighter integration across the products. Now, to that end, we've done a lot of work in multiple product groups to make that happen. So let me talk about what we've done to integrate Lync with Exchange and SharePoint. So Exchange 2013 includes many features that integrate with SharePoint 2013 and Lync 2013. Together, these products offer a suite of features that make scenarios such as enterprise e-discovery and collaboration using site mailboxes possible. Exchange integrates with SharePoint and Lync in a number of ways. And as with Exchange 2010, for example, we still include Lync presence and contact interaction through Outlook Web App, but we also include features that enable new scenarios that weren't possible before. For example, as you would expect, in Exchange 2013 environments with Lync Server 2013 installed, you can configure your users to enable and see presence information in Outlook Web App. Users can see their IM contacts and groups in the navigation pane and respond to or initiate instant messaging sessions from Outlook Web App, and they can manage their instant messaging contacts and groups. With Lync Server 2013 deployed in an organization with Exchange 2013, you can also configure Lync to archive instant messaging and online meeting content, such as shared presentations or documents in the user's Exchange 2013 mailbox. Archiving Lync data in Exchange 2013 allows you to apply retention policies to it. And the archived Lync content also surfaces in any e-discovery searches. Now, archiving of email and documents, preserving for the duration required to meet regulatory compliance and business requirements, and the ability to search them quickly to fulfill e-discovery requests is critical in most organizations. Exchange, SharePoint, and Lync Server 2013 together provide integrated archiving, hold, and e-discovery functionality, allowing you to preserve important data in place across Exchange mailboxes, SharePoint documents and websites, and archive Lync content. The eDiscovery Center in SharePoint 2013 allows authorized discovery managers to perform an eDiscovery search for content across these stores, preview the search results, and export the data for legal review. Here's an example of what that looks like. With the explosive growth of compliance requirements both inside and outside organizations, compliance has become everyone's responsibility. Neither the IT department nor the legal and compliance department keeps tabs on all of the information. Organizations need tools like this eDiscovery Center that enable self-service and automated compliance whenever possible. This tool lets you do things like perform unified searches, regardless of the document type of location, across Exchange, SharePoint, Lync, and file shares. You can search and view content by project, by legal matter, or business context. You can provide native safety message format content. And this is the evolution of compliance and search infrastructure, where data stays where it lives, where it has the most relevance. Another point of integration between Exchange and SharePoint is a feature called site mailboxes. In many organizations, information resides in two different stores, email in Microsoft Exchange and documents in SharePoint, with two different interfaces to access them typically. Now, this can cause a disjointed user experience, and it can also impede effective collaboration. Site mailboxes allow users to collaborate effectively by bringing together Exchange emails and SharePoint documents. For users, a site mailbox serves as a central filing cabinet, providing a place to file project emails and documents that can be accessed only by site members. Site mailboxes are provisioned and managed from SharePoint 2013, and they're surfaced in Outlook 2013 to give users easy access to the email and projects and documents for the projects they care about. Additionally, the same set of content can be accessed directly from the SharePoint site itself. Now, under the covers of a site mailbox, the content is kept where it belongs. Exchange stores the email, providing users with the same message view for email conversations that they use every day for their own mailboxes. And SharePoint stores the documents, bringing document co-authoring and versioning to the table. Exchange synchronizes just enough metadata from SharePoint to create the document in Outlook with things like document title, last modified date, last modified author, and size. The Unified Contact Store is a feature that provides a consistent contact experience across Microsoft Office products, including Exchange 2013. This feature enables users to store all contact information in their Exchange 2013 mailbox so that the same contact information is available globally across Lync, Exchange, Outlook, and Outlook Web App. After Lync is installed in an environment with Exchange, and you have configured server-to-server authentication between the two, users can initiate the migration of existing contacts from Lync to Exchange. Enabling a unified contact store in Lync does not really require any other topology changes. It just simply requires the user to have the unified contact store policy enabled, which it is by default, and have the user log into Lync 2013 at least once. And then after a user's contacts has been migrated, which happens automatically when they log in, the user can access and manage their Lync contacts from Lync, Outlook 2013, or Outlook Web App. The user does not have to be logged into Lync to manage contacts from Outlook or Outlook Web App. User Photos is a feature that allows you to store high-resolution user photos in Exchange 2013 that can be accessed by client applications, including Outlook, Outlook Web App, SharePoint 2013, Lync 2013, and mobile email clients. A low-resolution photo is also stored in Active Directory. And as with the Unified Contact Store, user photos allow your organization to maintain a consistent user profile photo that can be consumed by client applications without requiring each application to have its own user photos and different ways to add and manage them. Users can simply manage their own photos using Outlook Web App, SharePoint 2013, or Lync 2013. Now let's talk about modern public folders. Now, public folders in Microsoft Exchange 2013 have been modernized to take advantage of the existing high availability and storage technologies of the Mailbox database. The public folder architecture uses specially designed mailboxes to store both the public folder hierarchy and public folder content. This also means that there's no longer a public folder database in Exchange 2013. And it also means that public folder replication now uses the continuous replication model, and high availability for the hierarchy and content mailboxes are provided by a database availability group. And the way it works is users connect to their home public folder first, their home public folder mailbox first, I should say, which should be located near their primary mailbox. So we do still have this concept of a default public folder mailbox, and that is just to give them a quick and close place to pick up the hierarchy. Now, folder contents live in one specific mailbox. All operations would be redirected to that content mailbox. And any folder hierarchy changes, if an Outlook user adds or removes folders, those are intercepted and written to the one writable copy of the public folder hierarchy. So all public folder mailboxes will then listen for hierarchy changes, and they will get the updates in the background, and then those updates will be visible in a similar fashion that they are for Outlook clients. And because public folders are using mailboxes now, if the mailbox gets too large or what you might consider full, simply move some folders to a new mailbox or create additional content mailboxes. All right, let's talk about unified messaging next. Now, the architecture of 2013 is different than it was in 2010 and 2007. In previous versions of Exchange all of the components for unified messaging were included on the server that they had the server role installed. And in Exchange 2013, the unified messaging components are split between CAS and the Mailbox Server, with CAS running the unified messaging call router service and the Mailbox Server running the actual unified messaging service itself. Now, all of the functionality, including the services and the worker process for unified messaging, is located on the Mailbox Server, with the exception of the client access server running the Microsoft Exchange unified messaging call router service, which is there to redirect incoming calls to the Mailbox Server. Now, some enhancements to the speech-related services are offered for Exchange 2013 via Enhancements in Speech Engine version 11 and the Unified Communications Management API version 4. Now, grammar generation and language improvements are also included, and in addition, Exchange Server 2013 includes several enhancements to the UI and improvements for confidence and accuracy for voicemail preview. So, for example, in previous versions of Exchange a server that took a call used caller ID to try to look up the identity of the calling party. This search extended across Active Directory and the user's personal contacts stored in their mailbox. Now, Exchange users can be annoyed by the failures to identify Exchange or personal contacts from their caller ID. And until now, only the default contact folder in Exchange UM was used for this search. But in Exchange 2013, users are likely to have contacts aggregated from external social networks or contacts in unique folders that the users have created manually. And Exchange 2013 does support contact aggregation from external social networks, and it does provide intelligence to link multiple contacts referring to the same person and use that data to present a person-centric rather than a contact-centric view. And then the contacts that are aggregated from external networks are placed in contact folders along with any additional contact folders that users created. And the features in Exchange 2013 UM extend the scope of the search to include the user's other Exchange and personal contact folders that were created manually. Now, caller ID lookup is integrated with contact aggregation, so it searches across external contacts as well. The person ID property, when present and with a non-null value, can also improve the experience for caller ID resolution by suppressing duplicate matches to contacts that are associated with the same person. Because the person ID property is the same for both results, UM can treat them as a single contact. Now, in the new model, the client access server running the Microsoft Exchange messaging call router service redirects SIP traffic that's generated from an incoming call to a mailbox server. The client access server runs this unified messaging call router service, which receives an incoming call and forwards it to the mailbox server. Then a media, either RTP or secure RTP channel, is established from the voice over IP gateway or IP private branch exchange to the mailbox server that hosts the user's mailbox. In Exchange 2013, the mailbox server has the same processes as the unified messaging server role in previous versions, and so it runs both the unified messaging service and the UM worker processes. Now, Exchange 2013 UM also includes several enhancements to the user interface for OA and for Outlook clients to improve and increase the confidence and accuracy for voicemail preview. We have things like improved audio normalization. This is the process of uniformly increasing or decreasing the amplitude of an entire audio signature so that the resulting peak amplitude matches a specified target or the norm. So UM normalizes an auto recording before compressing it and sending it to the user. We also have enhanced speech recognition, and that is the process where we can collect voicemail messages, and only if the Exchange customer chooses to share this information, and we can analyze them to improve our speech recognition quality. We have voicemail preview confidence. The confidence score is the number assigned by unified messaging that is directly related to the overall accuracy of the transcription. The confidence calculations that are used by UM have been adjusted to be more accurate and represent the actual accuracy of a transcribed message. And filtering offensive words are detected and filtered, and the results are cached and stored in the user's mailbox. For hiding the text preview, if the confidence score of a voicemail preview is below a given threshold, the voicemail preview text will be hidden. If the text is hidden, the voicemail message will include text stating that the confidence of the voicemail was too low for the results to be displayed. For transcription performance, we all know that voicemail preview is a CPU-intensive operation that requires roughly twice the time it takes to process the audio file. So if generating the voicemail preview takes too long, the CPU throttling will stop processing the preview. Now, in Exchange 2010, UM didn't try to transcribe any message that was longer than 75 seconds. Now, in Exchange 2013, the entire voice message is transcribed, but the text for the message isn't included if it extends past 75 seconds. And lastly, we've improved the color schemes. Because of the confusion over the colors that were used to distinguish between low, medium, and high confidence for voicemail preview, that color scheme has been removed in Exchange 2013 for both Outlook, Web App, and Outlook itself. Now, in previous releases of Exchange Unified Messaging, a UM server that took a call used caller ID to try to look up the identity of the calling party. So we've already talked about how now the fact that users in Exchange 2013 can aggregate contacts from external social networks, or they may create their own contact folders. So now the enhancement caller ID is that it is both aggregating these contacts and treating multiple contacts that point to the same person as a single person, giving you a person-centric rather than a contact-centric view. And we're using the person ID property where it allows us to treat multiple contacts as the same person by matching them through that same person ID property. Of course, since we have only so much time, we don't have time to talk about some of the other great features in Exchange 2013, such as client enhancements, new social features, improvements to setup, improvements to in-place archiving and retention, built-in anti-malware, recipient enhancements, workload management, and my favorite, storage and high availability enhancements. So just real briefly, the Outlook web app user interface is new and it's optimized for tablets and smartphones as well as desktop and laptop computers. So new features include apps for Outlook, which allow users and administrators to extend the capabilities of Outlook web app. And other client enhancements include contact linking, which is the ability for users to add contacts from their LinkedIn accounts, and updates to the look and feel of the calendar as well. Social integration and making it easier to find people is important to users. A feature called Smart Search learns from users' communications and collaboration behavior to enhance and prioritize search results in Exchange. And also with Exchange 2013, users can merge contacts from multiple sources to provide a single view of a person by linking contact information pulled from multiple sources. And when you run the Setup Wizard, you'll be given the option to download and use the latest product roll-ups, security fixes, and language packs. This option doesn't just update the files that will be used to run Exchange. Setup itself can also be updated. And this design enables us to continue to improve Setup post-release and include and update readiness checks as requirements are updated or changed. Now we've also I think my audio cut out. We've also removed the steps in the Setup Wizard that aren't absolutely required for you to install Exchange. And so what's left is an easy-to-follow wizard that takes you through the installation process one at a time and performs prerequisite checks faster than ever. And in addition to the e-discovery improvements I mentioned in this webcast and the integration with SharePoint, additional improvements have been made for in-place archiving and retention, such as in-place hold. In-place hold is a new unified hold model that allows you to meet legal hold requirements when you need to do things like preserve query results and provide scoped immutability across mailboxes, place a time-based hold to meet retention requirements without having to use single item recovery or deleted item retention like you did in Exchange 2010. But of course, you can also place a mailbox on indefinitely hold like you could with litigation hold in Exchange 2010. And you can place a user on multiple holds to meet different case requirements. And in-place e-discovery allows authorized users to search mailbox data across all mailboxes and in-place archives in an Exchange 2013 organization and copy messages to a discovery mailbox for review. Exchange 2013 also supports archiving of links content in a user's mailbox, which means you can also place link content on hold using in-place hold and use in-place e-discovery to search link content archived in Exchange. You can now also create retention policy tags for the calendar and item tasks default folders to expire items in these folders. You can also use retention policies and time-based in-place hold to enforce retention of items for a set period. And the built-in anti-malware filtering capabilities help protect you and your network from malicious software that's transferred through email messages. And administrators can now use EAC to create a group naming policy, which lets you standardize and manage the names of distribution groups created by users in your organization. And the EAC also includes auditing functioning so that you can run reports or export entries from the mailbox audit log or the administrator audit log. And administrators can also use the EAC to track delivery information for email messages sent to or received by any user in your organization. Workload management is a continuation of the work we did in the throttling features we introduced in Exchange 2010, and its primary purpose is to smooth out server resource usage. Now, there's two ways to manage Exchange workloads. One is by monitoring the health of system resources or by controlling how resources are consumed by users, which is what throttling in Exchange 2010 did. But now we also have the ability to control how system resources are used in Exchange 2013 as well. And as if that wasn't enough, we've done a tremendous amount of work in the areas of storage, high availability, and site resilience. For example, we've reduced IOPS in Exchange 2013 by 50 to 70%, depending on the client, which is a reduction of IOPS by 95.5% over Exchange 2003. We've also enabled more efficient use of large hard drives with a feature known as multiple databases per volume, and we've added automation to the system to enable the system to respond to disk failures by repurposing a spare disk and automatically reseeding that disk with fresh copies of the failed databases. That's a feature appropriately named Auto Reseed. And we've also enhanced Exchange's ability to automatically recover from storage failures. We've integrated the single copy alert so that it's now part of managed availability. We've simplified DAG networking, and we've given lag copies the ability to care for themselves in certain scenarios, such as low disk space and the need for page patching. And finally, we've operationally simplified site resilience configurations and site activations, enabling some customers to configure Exchange for a data center failover. So for more information, I invite you to check out these other great resources, and I do see that it is 11:04, so I'd like to pass the microphone back to Josh, and then we can open the floor for a few questions.
Great. Thank you. Fantastic presentation, Scott. We do have a few questions in the chat window. I think, let me see, starting with Trond from 10:46 a.m. So as Scott answers questions, I'm going to be posting some survey questions. So if you could go ahead and answer those, that'd be great. And then, so Scott, go ahead if you have some questions you want to address.
Sure. So looks like the first one was Guido at 1039. Why is there a change from a console to a web portal? I think I explained that. The console is not firewall friendly. It's not very usable in a hybrid environment or over the web and so forth. So we unified those tools. Can EAC be accessed from mobiles and tablets? Yes. Let's see what else here. Anything new in Exchange archiving in 2013? I talked about that. Will I talk about these features at Tech Days? Yes. Let's see. A lot of this information is available at TechEd. Sure, because the information is the same and hasn't changed since then. So hopefully this is a reinforcement for those of you who were familiar with some of this. And any idea when coexistence for 2013 is there with 2003? Earlier in the chat window is a blog, a link to when we have it ready. And what we've said right now is Q1 of next year.